So thanks, guys, for inviting me to this event and for giving sort of a private sector opportunity to present to the third and public sectors. A little bit of background on myself, really. I've got a strong third sector background and public sector too. So I started at Bluestone in 2019. Prior to that, I was executive director of the Darwin Centre, which is a charity based in Pembrokeshire, which is all around science and engineering, stroke sustainability, engagement for schools, communities, etc. So I worked in the third sector there for 15 years and engaged, and the primary role of that function was engaging mostly with the public sector through schools, colleges, and other groups as well. So I've got a good understanding of the kinds of environment that you guys all work in. So hopefully there's some empathy there. And I came across to Bluestone in 2019, having sat on the Bluestone Foundation steering committee as an independent for about 10 years. And Bluestone was shifting a lot more focused onto sustainability at that time, with net zero in mind and other developments. And I was invited to come in and set up a new department here specifically around responsible business, and to look at drawing and sort of galvanizing some of the historic good practice and turning it into great practice, really, at Bluestone. So there were lots of good things going on and lots of gaps which I've been trying to fill, and lots of new innovations as well. I'll talk about those in a bit more detail in a moment. So this slide is just a little bit of background. It's important to understand a bit more about Bluestone, I suppose, before you can understand how it all fits in to the whole picture. So the top picture there that was Newton Farm. So before Bluestone was built, it was a farm. William McNamara, the chief executive founder of Bluestone, he was the farmer. So for many years he wandered those fields, gathering his cattle in for milking on a dairy farm. The Bluestone site's on about 500 acres, yeah, I think he had a head of about 300 cattle. And as you can see, the fields were pretty much all just open pasture land, improved pasture, low biodiversity, high fertilizer, and just what you need to do to get good large volumes of good quality milk. And the dream was to diversify that farm into a holiday resort, as you can see. So the picture below then, that's what Bluestone looks like now. We haven't got the pool in there, which is quite an attractive building, but a bit big. But you can see we've planted over 60 acres of woodland. We've put in a lake. We've created all kinds of different habitats, and it's been an incredible transformation from what was described by Cardiff University prior to the opening as an ecological desert, as most dairy farms are, into a really rich and important part of Pembrokeshire's biodiversity movement, really, working closely with the local authority on biodiversity action plans and things. So really proud of that. So some figures there that you can see, we're getting big. We've got over 770 staff now, so second biggest private sector employer in Pembrokeshire after Valero Oil Refinery. We have a lot of guests. We spend a lot of money paying local people. We spend a lot of money in the local supply chain. We're very, very female heavy business in terms of compared to other private businesses, 50-50 on the male-female on the board, and through the heads of department at senior managers, there are more females than males. And we've got lots of great benefits, including the 30% of the business as an employee benefit to the staff. So there's a dividend payment in good years, and the staff share. The last dividend payment, the staff shared £1 million. So really, really great place to work. Really innovative, forward thinking. How does it all fit into the picture? So, well, sustainable development is something, or sustainability is key to the whole strategy at Bluestone, and key to my strategy within my remit as well. We're very aware, staff are aware. This is all part of our company induction. I present this to the board and to all senior managers regularly too, to help to remind everybody what sustainability means. So it's not a piece of greenwash, and understanding what it means in globally and to the world. So you'll be familiar with the global goals. We've mapped our entire work against that recently, and also the Wellbeing of Future Generations Act. Again, we've also had that mapped by a third party. That's in the process of being reported back to us at the moment, mapping out all of our activities against that so that we can make some better decisions around aligning more readily to the Wellbeing Future Generations Act. That's actually feeding back to Sophie Howe's office as well, so they can see what we've been doing and how we've mapped it to help to create some sort of strategy for engaging private sector. And then the top part there is the Pembrokeshire approach. Really, that's what they've done. That's the local plan, which has come out of the Future Generations Act, and you can see the key parts there of who we are and where we live. So we are aware of these, and we use these as guidelines for some of the work that we do in setting up what we do here at Bluestone. So what's in my remit? So my remit is corporate responsibility. That's what we call the department, but it's mostly around sustainability. We aim to be the most responsible short break resort in the UK. That's our aim. My areas are underneath this mission here: biodiversity, energy, waste, community, and net zero. Obviously, we're going to focus on waste today, but I will just briefly touch on net zero in a moment as well. It's very key to this. But you can see there in waste, this is our sort of policy on waste, really. So when it comes to waste, we want to maximise the reduction, the reuse, and the recycling of waste first and foremost, with a focus on circular economy, and to ensure that the most responsible outcome for waste at Bluestone is made at every opportunity. It's not always possible to do exactly what you want to do with waste. There are all kinds of different things that can affect that. The driver shortage has caused us problems recently in terms of sending things for recycling, and there are all kinds of other implications as well. So I'll just briefly just touch on net zero, because that's a really important thing. We're committed to net zero. We haven't got an announcement yet or science-based targets, but we're just waiting on our scopes 1, 2, and 3 independent analysis to come back to us from Zero Carbon Forum, which is a group that we've joined, a hospitality group, sort of a non-competitive ideas sharing group with lots of other large hospitality industry players in the UK to try and get good value for the consultancy work that we might get. But the idea is, in general terms, is, as you know, to reduce our carbon footprint as far as is possible, whilst being able to operate and create profit, and then to offset what's left over. Without setting any figures, the guidelines are to try and get an absolute reduction in scopes 1 and 2 reductions by about 90% before we even start thinking about offsets. So it's quite and this is all by 2030 as well with the scopes 1 and 2. So it's quite ambitious. Just an idea as to sort of carbon footprint that Bluestone may have had before we started doing the work that we've done to try and reduce it. Just to give you some context, really. So electricity, we use a lot of that. It's quite expensive, 1.2 million. This is 2019 data, last full year that we had. So that price has gone up quite considerably since then, I think by at least $500,000. And we've also made some big changes to the way that we purchase these commodities. So our carbon footprint has reduced considerably since then too. But you can see the sorts of figures that we were looking at in 2019. What have we been doing? So we've switched to the green tariff. We did that in 2019. That really slashes your carbon footprint, but we're not just going to rely on the electricity from the grid. We're also looking at a renewable energy centre on site, hopefully trying to generate up to 40% of our own electricity. We haven't been able to do that up to now because of local grid infrastructure. That's been holding us back, not our ambition. Decarbonising the fleet. This is important. This is a circular part of it. So we want to have our fleet decarbonised by 2023. That's 30 vehicles. That's well over £500,000 worth of investment. And that will hopefully then allow us to charge our vehicles up using electricity that we generate on site. And that would be great if we could do that. We're switching from biopropane, switching to biopropane for cooking this year. We've just had that signed off. That will save us 150 tonnes of carbon per year from the propane that we currently use. And again, that's another circular decision. I'll mention in a little minute that we send all of our cooking oil off, tens of thousands of litres of cooking oil off to be recycled into biodiesel, and the co-product of the biodiesel industry is biopropane. So that's a circular decision as well that we've made. And in terms of scope 3, very difficult for us. We're having that analysis done externally, but before you even think about what you might do with scope 3, there are some things you can do immediately to try and reduce that carbon footprint, and that's to think about being local, think about the ethics and the quality of the products, and those things will sort of look after themselves in terms of reducing your carbon footprint. So a bit of context. How are we thinking of offsetting? planting. We want to do that locally if we can. You see on the map there, we've identified areas of Bluestone we could plant more woodlands. We're also working with local farmers, we're looking with local organisations, including the wildlife trusts, national parks and Brecon Beacons, Dŵr Cymru, and others, to try and explore ideas for investing in or supporting or enabling other projects that can generate carbon offset, like woodlands, peat restoration, seagrass, kelp forest, all kinds of different things. Everything's on the table at the moment as we explore how we can get the most value for our local community out of our offset program, and that we can point our guests and our stakeholders to where we get our carbon credit from when we need to get it. So moving more swiftly on to the whole circular economy piece, you're all familiar with that basic diagram in the corner there as to what circular economy looks like, and what the sort of historic economy looks like. We're all very aware of it. So the first thing that we try to do, just generally, is we try to recycle, reuse, and upcycle as much as we can. Nappy cycle, you'd have seen in the news recently about the roads using recycled nappies in the bitumen mix with tarmac, and having extending the life of that. Our nappies have been recycled here from Bluestone for many years. In fact, we were the first resort in the world, I believe, to recycle nappies on site. Every single lodge has a nappy recycling facility. It's over 500,000 nappies a year come out of Bluestone, and have done for many years. We were right at the very start, the launch of Nappy Cycle globally, which obviously all happened here in Wales. Really exciting company, Natural UK. Olico, they collect our oil. That's been going off to be turned to biodiesel for many years as well. And our food waste goes locally to an anaerobic digestion facility in Cardigan, and that is turned into green energy, but also into a fertilizer, an organic fertilizer, and that's given away for free to local farmers, and farmers in Ceredigion and Pembrokeshire are using that to inject into the soil. We buy a vast majority of our food in our food and beverage outlets from local producers, so we are buying food that's being grown in fields that are being fertilized by our food waste, so another circular approach there. We work really hard to get people where we can't be circular, and we do need to dispose of waste, whether it's to be recycled or to be sent off to be burnt for energy. We don't send any of our general waste to landfill, haven't done that for probably 5 years. That goes to be burnt for energy. There's an increased cost. You can see there that the black bin container is £25 and the green one is 15, so it's far cheaper for us to send it off to be recycled. That's becoming more and more challenging for us and other private sector organisations, and you, I suppose, as well, because there are some new legislation coming in the next probably 12 to 18 months, Welsh Government, which is going to say that we need to further break down the streams of recycling from a single dry mixed recyclate to streams more like we have in Pembrokeshire and some other counties now, where we'd have a paper and card stream and then a plastic bottles and plastic and cans stream. So we're in the process of trying to strategise for that at the moment, which is a big deal. Just to buy the bins to be able to accommodate that across our resort is going to cost us something like £300,000. So these are big issues that we're trying to tackle. So that's just generally what we do there in terms of our waste and how we manage it. We've got a big press on reducing single-use items. I'll talk a little bit about that in a moment as well. But we've managed to reduce in Sardinia in 2019 from our annual usage of single-use items. We've managed to reduce it by about 400,000 pieces of single-use items. That was much more challenging during COVID, or when COVID was much more restrictive on us, because we had so many items needed to be instantly disposable, so we had to revert back some of those at the time. But we've kind of flipped those back in, and we're going through all of the decisions we made and re-looking at them at the moment to try and get that back on track. But more specifically now, I'll give you some real life examples, albeit some of them quite small ideas, but some of the things that we do here at Bluestone, which are circular and local as well, which maybe give you some ideas as to how we start to embed some of these ideas on the ground. So historically, we've had a problem with sofas. We've got about 1,000 sofas on resort at any one time, and people pay a reasonable amount of money to stay at Bluestone. They expect a particular level of quality. So once our sofas start to get a little bit weathered and a bit worn at home, that would be fine. It would be the comfy sofa that you all like to sit on. But here, that's got to go. Our guests don't want to see that when they walk into a lodge. Historically, very difficult to get rid of sofas. We would give some away, but a lot of them would end up sitting around at the back of our stores building until we had enough to go off, and they would go off to landfill. It was very difficult. There was nobody who would come and collect and recycle these things. It was a very big problem. Our landfill rate in 2019, again, last full year, was less than 1%. When I arrived at the beginning of that year, 2% to landfill was of our entire waste was going to landfill, and that was coming just from sofas. They're a huge weight to them, particularly if you are daft enough to leave them outside in the rain, as had happened. So wanted to try and find a circular solution for that. So the first part of that solution was, there were lots of people that would like a worn sofa. So we worked with people like the homelessness team here in the county, Frame, Paul Sartori, Value Independence, and other local charities that had the ability to distribute these into the local community where they were needed, or like Frame and Paul Sartori do, and I'm sure you have these stores across your counties as well. They sell items at a low rate, and that money goes back into their charity to help to support jobs in the community for vulnerable adults and others as well. So all great causes. So that's the first step. The next step is what do we do with the ones that are too damaged for those guys to sell? So what we do then is we engage with Norman Industries. So Norman Industries are a part of Pembrokeshire County Council, and they're a project that support, again, vulnerable adults with work. And one of the things that they do is they have a sawmill, and they have a wonderful woodworking workshop and fabric workshop as well. So they're able to repair the broken sofas and reupholster broken sofas too. So they do that, and they're able to utilize those within they have cafe in Haverfordwest, which they've got our sofas in. They've got other members of their client base that have had sofas from us too. And also, we've just managed to, between us, a sort of a three-way conversation between Frame, which is a charity, Norman Industries, which is local authority, and Bluestone, where we've got this little agreement now where Frame will collect, take it to their stores. Norman Industries will go, they will take what they need to be able to sell. Norman Industries will go and take the sofas that they can repair, or bits and bobs off old, really damaged sofas to be a stock for repairing other sofas they've already got. And then they will repair them, reupholster them, and then they can sell them through Frame. And then the revenue from that is split between these two organisations to support their ongoing charities, which has turned out really well. The last part of the pie there, so this is fully circular, as fully circular as we can get. There are sofas that are then so damaged that they can't be repaired, or the capacity levels at Norman Industries can't deal with them, and we're left with sofas that we can't do anything with. And at that stage, we have an agreement with Frame, a paid-for contract, where they have members of their paid staff who are adults with vulnerabilities that will strip those sofas down. So they strip off the fabric. You can see in the picture there. They'll strip it down to the wooden frames, and to the metal, the springs and other bits of metal within it. And then they create those three avenues of recycling that can happen there. So any wood that they need, they can take from it, but otherwise wood goes into the wood recycling, metal to the metal recycling. Any fabric that can be recycled is recycled, and then any of the sponge and other bits of fabric that are sort of, you know, not serviceable in any other way can go to be burnt for energy. But that's a very small amount. I think it's probably just a couple of % of the volume of those sofas. So that's a really nice example of how we've come up with a circular solution to a problem that we had. It probably costs us about the same, so it's cost neutral for us, and we've created some incredible relationships with the local community, and we're really proud of that. And the organisations are able to develop wider relationships with us around other areas. So we've developed new projects off the back of this. The next one, I see, is exactly that. So off the back of that relationship, we then we're refurbing some of the lodges, and we found that we had, you can see in the picture there, they're called bed runners. I mean, my granny had a bed runner on her bed, but it's not really such a modern thing. But when Bluestone was built, there were bed runners across the beds. Hotels have them often, don't they? Across the bottoms of the beds. And they were here, and we used those every single day on all of our beds for about 13 years. They started to look a little bit worn, so we decided that we would take them out. But we weren't going to replace them because, you know, it's slightly more modern now, and it's not so much the norm in the type of accommodation that we offer. So we took them out. Historically, I suppose we would have probably disposed of those. They probably would have gone off to be burnt for energy. Prior to that, they probably would have gone to landfill, but wanted to try and find a solution for it. So I went to Frame, asked them, and to Norman Industries as well, and asked them if they had any ideas around this. Frame were quite keen to take some because they make quite good blankets. They're great for checking over an old sofa or for putting into a pet's bed and other things like that. So they took about half of them, and they took them into their store, and they sell them, and they sold quite well to the community, a very low rate, but it generated some income for their charity. But I didn't want them all to go the same way. We like to spread the wealth a little bit. So working with Norman Industries then and Pembrokeshire College, they're independent living students there that are learning skills for life. A lot of them with vulnerabilities and disabilities and other challenges. We had this idea that if we sewed these bed runners into threes, it would make quite a nice large blanket. So they have a kind of a downy interior, so they're quite insulating and they're quite warm. So this is what's going on at the moment. So the Pembrokeshire College students working in partnership with Norman Industries are sewing them into threes, and we're creating blankets. And these blankets, once we've got them all, we should have about 100 blankets, will be given. We haven't decided on the charities yet, but we're looking at perhaps homelessness or disaster charities can have these blankets, and then they'll have a new life, a really positive new life as well. So, that's a really good example again of a really good, positive, circular economy there that's working, helping lots and lots of different stakeholders at the same time. Other community partners, we work really closely with the farmer next door, Paul Ratcliffe. When we set up Bluestone, a really innovative piece of thought really was that our Blue Lagoon swimming pool, which you may or may not have been to, it's like a large leisure centre type pool with a slides and a lazy river and all that, uses about 7 meg of energy every year to heat it. Normally you'd heat a pool like that with kerosene. That's really got a high carbon footprint, expensive. So the decision was made 14 years ago to try and do that by biomass. Again, I think it was one of the very first pools of that size to do that anywhere in the world. And the farmer next door, Paul Ratcliffe, was asked if he would be able to provide the biomass for it, because we're committed to biomass from FSC woods and within 30 miles of Bluestone to keep it local. And he took that upon and diversified his farm basically. And part of his business now is delivering biomass for us and more widely across Wales now. So we work really closely with PBE, the biomass company next door, and also we have a lot of grass to cut. So we have hundreds of tons of grass cuttings every year from our 300 lawns and recreation areas at Bluestone. So what we do is, rather than leaving it on the grass to just, it gets quite mushy and it gets onto people's shoes. We try not to dump it anyway. That's not very good. So we've got a facility here where we dump the grass, hundreds of tons of it, and each month Paul will come and collect that, take it across to his farm, and he adds it to his manure reserve, and it adds to the fertilization properties of his. And he uses that then to grow crops on the other part of his farm as well. So there's a nice little agreement there on keeping these piles of grass off our resort and from polluting our watercourses potentially as well. So that's a nice, really simple little circular project there. Next one then, you can see there's a nice picture of a bird box there with P8 on it, lovely blue tit flying out. P8 means Portfield 8. Portfield's a local special school here in Pembrokeshire. We work really closely with those guys on lots of different projects. Trying to give them loads of great activities to do here at Bluestone. They come and help our ranger with clearances and habitat work as well, feeds into their curriculum. But the bird box project is something great that we really rely on. We need bird box. Well, we're committed to bird boxes here, nest boxes at Bluestone, to try and support the local bird community. And we link up with National Nest Box Week, and we were looking to try and get Portfield School to help us to build boxes. They've been doing it for about 4 years now. We get all the wood for that is offcuts of wood from our carpentry departments, and our ranger on site and carpenters on site will cut them and prepare them into shape, and like a flat pack, like an IKEA flat pack of a bird box. And then the schools will build them, and they'll come to Bluestone and they'll help us to put them up and learn about why we position them in a particular way, or and what birds might be in there. And we audit these and we give them the information and the data as to what birds are living in there. So it's a really nice project again. The next one, this is a supply chain issue. Historically, we change 1,000 beds twice a week here at Bluestone. That's around about 200,000 plastic bags every week. Every year that we were getting historically. You see in the picture there, we'd get these crates full of sheets with plastic bags on just about every individual sheet. So as part of our change of supplier recently, sustainability was a key part of it, and all of the suppliers that bid for our tender had to present sustainability ideas. We gave them some ideas too. This was one of our ideas, and this local supplier here in Ceredigion in West Wales came forward and we're trialing this project now, and it's working really well. So we now have them individually. So the coloured bags you see, each coloured bag is a different lodge type. So what they do now is they pack each of those reusable, washable bags with the lodge type sheets within them. So instead of us having to sort them all out when they get here, they just arrive, the bags go color coded into the lodges. We can do them, we leave the bags in there, and the guests, when they leave, they unpack all their bedding and they put it back into the bag. Bag and sheets go back to the laundry, bag and sheets get washed, gets packed, comes back. So it saved us a lot of time and effort, and it's also reduced single-use materials by about 200,000. We had a new uniform recently, my snazzy uniform on here. We've got them now, the logos are stitched on so that we can remove them, so that we can give these to charity at some stage rather than having to destroy them when they've been embroidered. But we had a lot of coats left over with the old logos on, and instead of destroying the coats, which had embroidered logos, we worked with a local supplier, of course, I'm in safety, by Safety Gear from. They do lots of embroidery as well, and when we suggested to them that we were looking to give away these coats to the local community, so this was the first tranche of coats was given to two different charities, Milford Youth Matters and the VC Gallery, which is a veterans charity. They both had gardening projects, and they both had lots of people from the community with varying sort of backgrounds that were using their outdoor facilities, but often they didn't have enough coats to go around, and people would come without coats. So we wanted to donate the coats to them. Simon Safety said, what a great idea. What we'll do is we'll take all your old coats and we'll re-embroider over your embroidery with their logos, and that way our logo is gone. So there's no security risk to our logo, and these other organisations got these great, really often in good quality coats, and that's been great. And that's a new part of our process now for uniform recycling. So our uniform comes back. So with the new system, our uniform all comes back to a central place within the business. The uniform a company that we buy them from offered to do a recycling program for us, where we would send the used uniform back, or uniform that's returned or damaged uniform back to them, and we asked them what they would do with it. They said it would be burnt for energy directly. We said, well, we weren't very happy with that, so we've taken it upon ourselves to recycle them ourselves. So where we can, we reuse. Where we can't, items, old shirts that do have an embroidery on, or old t-shirts and trousers get shredded down into rags used for industry before they end up getting burnt for energy. So one more step in their life. And then any coats or body warmers or jackets or anything else that's of a quality that could be utilised in the community is re-logoed and given out to the community for free. So that's another nice project there. Most recently, and something we're really pushing on at the moment, is to try and reduce the amount of plastic on resort. So in 2021, we stopped selling water in plastic bottles. So that's about 42,000 plastic bottles a year. It's about £25,000 worth of profit that we've basically written off by not selling water in plastic bottles. We also invested several £1,000s in water filling stations across resort, so that we're not seen to be trying to profit from selling reusable bottles as part of this. It was really important to me that wasn't seen to be what we were trying to do. What we do is we send out 2 reminders to our guests before they come, a week before they come and the day before they come, telling them that we don't sell water in plastic bottles, telling them that we do give water away all across resort. Obviously they can get it from the taps in their lodges, but from any outlet and from these water dispensing units too. And for them to bring their own reusable bottles, so that they do. If they don't, we do sell them, but we sell them at a markdown price so that we're not making the usual markup on that item. So we're trying very, very hard not to profit from this, and to try and drive people to just, reduce the amount of single-use plastic. It's a genuine attempt there's 10% off all hot drinks if you use reusables, or you can buy, if you buy your reusable coffee cup, again, a marked down price in our outlets, you get a free coffee as well. So the cup's only £6, you get a £3 coffee for free. So, you know, in your stay, if you use a reusable cup, if you buy one and use one, your coffee will pay for itself, and your cup will pay for itself, sorry, over the time that you're here. An early thing that we did as well, which was great for us, which was really good, was we bought all of our staff a really good reusable coffee cup, a mug. This is a really nice can with our logo on it, around sustainability, our free range future logo. We bought all staff these. We've probably spent about £9,000 on these in the last 3 years. We've given out nearly 1,000. And all staff then we give all of our staff free tea and access to free tea and coffee at Bluestone at any time. So we insist that they use these rather than single-use cups. And in the first year, just in one of our buildings alone, the arrivals building, you know, where the guests will arrive at, and staff spend several hours in there just working at their desk and welcoming people. We reduced the number of single-use coffee cups in this by 16,000 in 1 year. Just by doing this. So that was a really great project as well. So you know, that's it really in terms of the sort of stuff. There are lots of other projects. I'm sure maybe some of those will be teased out by any questions, but hopefully that's a good overview of what Bluestone's about, how it kind of fits into our strategic thinking around circular economy and reducing our impact on the planet, how we work with local communities, and how we're always trying to think of new ways to be circular. And hopefully, you know, it's given you some questions that you can ask of me if you like. So thanks very much for listening to that. I hope I didn't waffle too much, and I look forward to hearing any questions that you might have. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Martin. Thank you from me. Really interesting and incredibly practical examples or new service solutions that you've created that implement circular economy principles. And the really impressive aspect is how you've obviously combined the circular economy principles with your, let's say, foundational economy or community wealth building principles to ensure those two go hand in hand. I'm sure there'll be an awful lot of questions. I'll try and field those as they pop up. If people want to type into the chat as well, they can do. I can see a hand up from Louise. Would you like to field your question to Martin? You're on mute at the moment, Louise. That's usually my trick. So thanks for taking that on this morning.
Hi, Martin. Thanks. I mean, hello again. You're just such an inspiration, and just thank you for that. Every time I hear you speak, I just feel so inspired. I mean, you're such a game changer, really, in Wales. I was just going to ask, in terms of getting staff on board, which is critical in terms of delivering your circular economy principles, and also in terms of customers, you know, the add-on value, which is geographically different, isn't it? Different markets, and really, how is what? Sorry, there's 3 questions. So it's staff, customers, added value, but also in terms of good practices in Wales. Do you feel there's enough sharing going on in terms of best practice and what you're doing? And I mean, you know, for example, Anglesey Zoo is doing great things, and there are others, particularly in North Wales. But is there enough sharing of best practice in terms of circular economy principles in practice? Thanks, Martin.
Okay, great. Yeah, good question. So staff really key for us. You know, we've got a lot of staff, 770 or so. So we, you know, when we gave these out, it gave us, and when we do continue to give these out, it gives us a great opportunity to engage with staff. We have a presentation not dissimilar to the one I just gave at our induction for all staff. And since April of 2021, we've had to employ almost 300 new staff since coming back after sort of the deepest part of COVID. Lots of people didn't come back after furlough, and so you know, that's almost half of our staff have had an induction in the last year. We do still engage on a regular basis with departments. We have a group here at Bluestone called Team Planet, and it's got members from all the departments across the resort all come, and we meet once a month to discuss all of these issues around our planet. So people, profit, planet, and product are our four sort of pillars of Bluestone. We talk about our planet initiatives and ideas that meet it, and they filter them back to their departments. Chief Exec sits on that group as well. So he's deeply involved in this. I report directly to the Chief Exec, so this is something that is directly part of the conversation at Bluestone. And the members of that Team Planet group are paid extra to be on that group. It's a formal group. It's actually so this circular economy and our planet agenda is embedded in the business, and people are paid for that additional input as well. And also we've in the last 12 months we've brought, and this has been really useful actually, we've got a staff app. So it's a little bit like Facebook or some other app like that, but it's just for our staff. And we've got all of our staff, well, 760 of our staff are members on this app, and there's I post on that on a weekly basis about the different initiatives that we're doing. I tell them about this event, for instance, and I tell them about other events, and ask them to support other projects that we're doing, beach cleans. We recently, obviously Christmas has just gone, and we had 100 Christmas trees in pots that we needed to be rehomed for the summer. So staff have been taking those home to water them for us over the summer and bring them back in November ready for next Christmas. Another sort of circular type thing that we do. So engaging staff is key, but you've got to actually engage them, and you can't beat conversations face to face. So we engage with them regularly face to face. We engage with them through our Team Planet group monthly, and I engage with them regularly through the app as well. And there's an open dialogue to me as well about all kinds of things. So we're always asking them. And also we have an ideas forum too. So any member of staff can pitch any idea about any part of the business. And they will be rewarded for pitching an idea, and if that idea then turns into something fruitful, so if it saves us money, saves energy, then they will be paid a proportion of that saving as well. So there are lots and lots of incentives for the staff to be involved. Guests, in terms of communicating with them, that's much more part of our whole sales pitch now, is around us being trying to be environmentally friendly and sustainable. You mentioned sort of the added value. We've done some research, and the more this is how the research has come back. So the more affluent the area that you do your surveys in, the more emphasis they put on the credentials of a business when you're booking a holiday. So we did a survey in a less affluent area of Cardiff, and 16% of people came back and said that the environmental and sustainable credentials of a business are important to them making a booking. We did the same with an affluent group in the Oxford area, and 61% of them said that it's absolutely fundamental to their booking of a holiday that the place that they're staying is in line with their personal brand, really, and their values as well. So, our product is improving all the time. We've got 80 new lodges been planning permission for. They're going to be more eco related, and they're going to be a higher value. So our target market is going to be that slightly more affluent group, and they definitely want shared values, and they will definitely scratch below the surface to see if what we're saying is what we're doing. So it makes the agenda here around planet and around sustainability, circular economy, it's just part of the business model now. People are prepared to pay more to stay somewhere or to buy anything that aligns with their values. And I think since COVID, that's definitely ramped up even further. People are just, I think, paying more attention now to the planet more generally, and people and communities too. And then in terms of sharing, this is the third time I've given that presentation. So business in the community, I've given it to another university. I'm giving that presentation almost the same again in about 2 hours time to University of Wales, Trinity St David, to their students as well. So I'm asked quite often now to give those talks. I've given a talk like that to Welsh Government Circular Economy Department when they were doing some policy reviews. So there are platforms for these discussions, and we're sharing as much as we can. We're not perfect by any means. There's lots of things that we need to improve on, and I'm sure any of your people in this that have come and stayed at Bluestone might say, well, hang on a minute, what about this? So yeah, we'd love to hear those ideas, because we're not perfect, but there is a desire for sharing. We'd like to share, but also we'd like to learn more from others too, and maybe there's room for a more wider Wales platform for this sharing that could come out of these sorts of discussions, particularly linking the north and the south of Wales together, because I know there's some great practice there, as you've mentioned. Thank you.
Thanks, Martin. A really interesting response there, and thanks for addressing all three questions within the one. And what's great to hear is that circular economy and foundational economy can be implemented in a commercial model that makes you more attractive as a commercial proposition to people across the UK. So that's great to hear. Lots of questions coming in. I think it was Gerald's hand went up first. So Gerald, would you like to field your questions, Martin?
Good morning, Martin.
Morning.
Nice to meet you. It's a pleasure. Sorry, it's a pleasure to meet you. I'm a big fan of what you guys do at Bluestone. From a social housing point of view, we think on tenant engagement, and I'm wondering, have you noticed a change in returning customers and their attitudes towards recycling and how they are interacting with your principles?
Yes. We've also, because of this change that's coming with recycling in particular, and us having to move from a single bin in the lodge for dry mixed recyclers to 2 separate bins for recycling, just as many county councils are doing at the moment. We've been engaging with our guest base quite a lot recently. We had a survey recently returned by 4,000 people, and 97% of those people that filled that in came back and said that we asked them would they be prepared, or would they feel it would be a positive part of their stay if they were asked to recycle and to separate their waste out further than we already asked them to. 97% of them said yes. And in the same question, we asked them if they felt that climate change was an issue for government, for business, or local people, or something that everybody should play a part in. And I think it was 88% of people said that it was definitely something that we should all play a part in. So I know for sure that our guests really support the idea of recycling and circular economy. And I know that when we post things on our social media, we've got 120,000 followers on Facebook. Whenever we post something about these, they get more responses than when we give a big discount for something. More people will respond positively to, hey, you're doing that amazing thing to do with the circular economy or recycling than when you offer them loads of money. So yes, I think people genuinely are really engaged by it.
Just a quick follow-up question. What challenges are you experiencing at the moment in trying to generate your own on-site electricity and heating? It's just the reason I asked that is obviously with what's coming in a few weeks' time in terms of pricing, but also, we're having to come up with innovative ideas in how we're going to help our tenants basically not drive them into fuel poverty. And for all intents and purposes, Bluestone is an estate, it's a community, and you have the potential to generate electricity and heating. And I'm wondering if there's anything you have to share in your experiences that maybe we can, or I can learn from, because I'm going to be asked to do something very similar to what you guys are planning.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So we would already have a renewable facility here if it were for the infrastructure. So the grid here, we can't actually export to the grid. Or haven't been able to export to the grid, so it hasn't been viable for us to build a huge facility here without being able to export. Funders won't back that sort of thing. We've managed to negotiate a managed connection here with Western Power, but we're several years away from the infrastructure being right for us to actually feed in fully to it to make it really viable. So for us to feed it back across is really, really difficult, and it's what's held us back. But that is progressing at the moment. But we did. With some great leader funding actually through PlanEd here in Pembrokeshire a few years ago, where we were part of a consultation called Project Dynamo. This is publicly available, so you might want to look this up. If somebody from Plan Ed is in this call, then get in touch with those guys. So that piece of work is in the public domain, and that was a pretty good piece of work around. So Project Dynamo was to be a sort of a community renewable facility, not on Bluestone. We were just going to be one of the clients of it on land near to us. I'm not sure that project's not specifically going forwards in the way that it looked in that proposal, but off the back of that, we've learned a lot. And I know there are still conversations going on around that in the Narberth area. So that's a really good piece of work that I can signpost you to have a look at.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, but you are right. Yeah, so it's a bit of a watch and brief for us, really, in terms of how much electricity we're able to generate due to our connectivity to the grid. But it is something that we're interested in and being able to do. But at the moment,
why
we
not
can't.
Off-grid? Sorry, why not completely off-grid? Why would you be interested in feeding back in? Is that just because you want to assist the local economy or community, or why not just create it off-grid and do your own?
Yeah, well, I mean, there is the potential for that in the future. It's something we do step by step. It'll cost us close to £3 million just to move 30% of our electricity off grid to build a facility. So it's a big investment to do that from an electricity point of view. So this is sort of step one. We are, like I've said before, we are behind where we would like to be because of the infrastructure. So, but it is something that could potentially happen in the future. Also, by being still connected to the grid, it does give you that security of being able to keep the lights on. That security is really useful for us when we've got 1,500 paying guests on resort, and we need to keep the lights on as well. So that is something that we're going to talk about more and more as time goes on. But there is the potential for it. It would save us an awful lot of money if we were off grid, because of the price of electricity is incredible.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Martin. I've got a hand up from Ben. Ben, would you like to ask your question?
I think you're muted, Ben.
Hi, Martin.
Hi, Ben.
I have missed a hell of a lot of your presentation, but so I'm going to go over the video again later. I guess I just wanted to say I'm very impressed. And do you guys have you thought about doing any staycations where people can come and look at the ways you do things for the circular economy and to teach them?
Yeah, no, it is. It's something that we do look at. We do have, in fact, on Monday, I've got a school coming here to do just that. A local school are going to come along and spend the day with me, and we're going to go behind the scenes and have a look at what we do so they can help to inform their lessons. In terms of having a staycation specifically to learn about it, we do offer, we have all kinds of activities that people can do here at Bluestone. And one of the things that we're looking at developing going forward is an opportunity to take part in an activity. We call it an activity, a group which can do a behind the scenes look at what we do. They do stuff related to our biodiversity already, and we're looking at the potential for guests to be able to sign up to. It would be a free activity, so we have some example of how it might work. Is that we have some really good cultural heritage here at Bluestone. We've got an Iron Age fort, a fortified hunting lodge, medieval, and a medieval church, and some other routes across the resort which are medieval too. And we have a local historian who comes in twice a week. So every guest that comes will have access to a free history walk around Bluestone with an expert to talk about that. And we're looking at doing a similar thing for that linked to our sustainability effort, linking in biodiversity with waste management and energy production as well. So yeah, that is something we're thinking about doing sometime in the future.
That's the next question I was going to put to Gary. If we can organise Kate to have their residential over at Bluestone.
Well, that's certainly a possibility. We could talk offline with Martin and look at that as a possibility. The other thing that I'd immediately mention is that for any of you on the call that would be interested in implementing some of the service solutions that Martin's talked through collaboratively with other organisations, Martin's offered us the opportunity to go down to Bluestone, talk to him, talk to the staff that have put in place these the different new service solutions that he's mentioned, from the from the reuse of sofas, from the Christmas tree example, so that our groups, or if you wanted to form a group and implement some of the ideas, we could take you down to Bluestone, not only talk to Martin, but talk to some of the staff there about some of the challenges operationally that they face, maybe some of the cultural challenges that you, Gerald and others have highlighted, in engaging other people in the organisation with change. So, that Martin has made available. So anyone that would want to learn from that, we could arrange a site visit down to Bluestone so that you could learn directly. And it's part of what we're doing within the programme, ensuring and supporting the groups that are looking at developing new service solutions that implement circular economy principles, that we do give access to what we would call site visits. Now, sometimes those site visits are physical, mostly they're kind of webinar based, as we're doing this morning. But yeah, that we are trying to ensure that is part of the programme. Obviously, it's been difficult over the last year or so with COVID. Hopefully now, as we move out of that, we will take Martin up on his offer, particularly if any of the guys on the call or any of the guys on our existing cohorts would like to implement similar schemes or projects that Martin and his team have put in place.
I'm putting my hand up for that. I've got to get back to work, but I'll rewatch the video, and thank you very much.
Thanks, Ben. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
We, I think we've got a question from Sarah at Hywel. Oh no, Sarah's just saying that she has visited.
Yes. Hi, Sarah.
Any other questions?
Yeah, can I just say, Gary, I have, and Martin knows this, he's been very hospitable, let me go round and have a look at all of this in action. It's very inspiring. It's it's jaw-dropping. I think poor Martin just had oh wow as a constant response from me. So if there is the opportunity for people to go and have a look and take up the offer, I really think it would be beneficial, especially within the CAPE programme as well. It's really good to take some examples from. So yeah, definitely recommend that.
Yeah, we'll be organising that, and if there are new cohorts or anyone that's part of the session this morning that would like to bring a group together and join one of our cohorts, and we've only got 3 left, guys, so our funding runs to the end of this year. We've got 3 cohorts left to start, so either jump on a cohort that's about to start, or sign up, and then we can look at the suggestions or the ideas that you've got that you might want to implement with colleagues, and we'll arrange a visit down to Bluestone for anyone that would like to go down, specifically obviously those that would like to take some of the examples that Martin and his team have put in place and implement within your own organisations, and obviously learn from not only the new process, the new service solution that's been developed, but the way that Bluestone engaged with staff and customers to make that happen, because that's often, I'd imagine you'd suggest, Martin, that's the challenging area is the implementation. And that's what we do as part of CAKE over the 10 months, is support the groups to understand and map out that implementation phase.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the other point you made there is key, particularly for us, obviously with a customer base, is that, you know, we try and ask the customer for their opinions on this before we do things. So even with the renewable facility, we've asked them what they think about, you know, driving past a wind turbine or a solar field, and what would they prefer, or what about noise, what about this, what about that. So we're not just doing stuff because we want to. We're trying to engage with all stakeholders. That makes implementation that much easier as well, if everybody's kind of on the same page.
Absolutely, and the empathy phase, the insight phase of that design thinking model is very much about supporting the groups that come onto Cake to engage with users, to engage with stakeholders, and obviously customers. And one of the key things that I've learned from our original conversation, but obviously this morning as well, is the way that you've engaged suppliers to understand your value set, and then to work with suppliers that share similar values. Is that something that was conscious? Yes,
it was. And there are plenty of suppliers that we have that are really, really keen, and they some of them have never really thought about it before, but as soon as you mention it, they're like, yes, that sounds like a wow, yeah, we'd love to be involved. That's great. I mean, we're just about to send a letter out to all of our suppliers, or well over 100 of them, which with a new procurement policy and some new ideas in there around collaboration and community benefit and other things, and particularly around carbon footprint reduction. And that letter is going to go out soon, so all of our supply chain will be sort of invited to share with us what they're doing and what their ambitions are. And those that struggle but want to take that journey, we're going to put a hand out and help them. And it'll help us to identify those that really don't want to do that, and then perhaps they're not going to be suppliers anymore. But we're hoping that they all go for it. That's the beauty then of having as local a supply chain as you can. Can't have everything local, but because you're able to have conversations with people that live down the road, and understand the same local sort of personal challenges as well that you have, and that just makes it much easier to have those conversations.
Absolutely, and as you say, it builds that community wealth and ensures that you are supporting the regional and foundational economy. I can see a question from Chris around your staff and travel to work and the potential carbon footprint that creates. Is that something you've looked at?
Absolutely, yeah. So we put on buses for staff. So over 200 staff a week come on complimentary buses that Bluestone put on. The buses go around the county, stopping at normal bus stops in the mornings and collect staff and bring them in to the office throughout the day to pick up on different shifts as well. Bluestone isn't on a local bus route. We're working really hard with the local county council, have done for years, to try and we've even offered to pay to build it. We're just asking for the bus route to be diverted about a mile, about 5 to 8 minute diversion on a bus route, which will pick us into the Tenby, Stafford West to Tenby route, which will pick up a lot of the county's population, but we're struggling with that at the moment. So for now, we do have a fleet of buses with a local Narberth company that go out into the community and pick up our staff. And we've also shifted our times of our shifts, particularly for our housekeepers. So we have 300 or so housekeepers that come in on Fridays and Mondays. Many of them are parents, often they're single parents, and the shifts and the buses go out to pick them up after the school run and get them back before the school run. So, and we also offer childcare at Bluestone as well at a super duper discount. I think it's less than £10 a day for staff that need to bring their children in to work with them during the school holidays too, as well. So we do have a car sharing function on our app as well, but that's been quite difficult through COVID, obviously. But as we come out of COVID and it's more and more reasonable to share vehicles again, we'll be pressing forward on that too. But it is something that we do look at regularly. And public transport would be great for us, but we just don't have it here. So it is a challenge.
Excellent. Both, again, examples of foundational economy and circular economy working hand in hand. So thanks for that question, Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
And it's commendable. And wow is the phrase I think somebody used, which I'd certainly exhort again. Any other questions? I'm conscious of time. We've probably got about a minute left. So if anybody wants to squeeze a question in, please do. We will be making the presentation available online. One thing that I'd be really pleased if you could all do is share what Bluestone are doing. The more customers I think Bluestone get, not only does it support a business in Wales, but actually I'd suggest they're an incredible education provider in terms of circular economy. So I've got no issues whatsoever in promoting Bluestone and what Martin's doing as wide as possible. So please do get this message out. If you've enjoyed the session this morning, tweet the link when we get that out to you, or put the link on LinkedIn or whatever platforms that you think appropriate. And if you've got suggestions in terms of challenges you'd like to work on within Cake, we can support you to do those. As mentioned, it's fully funded, so we can bring you together with people from other organisations and your own organisation to develop these solutions. And they don't have to be earth-breaking or earth-shattering solutions. That they are based on and similar to Martin's, and they can work, and we can bring you together to put those in place. Any final questions before we finish? Louise.
Hi, sorry, it's me again. Martin, it's really in relation to the Zero Carbon Forum.
Yeah.
Because I know there's a lot of discussion, particularly after the last COP meeting, around how the methodologies in relation to measuring carbon footprints. And you mentioned the hospitality peer support group. How is that going? And do you think Wales needs a common methodology to measure, particularly from hospitality, carbon footprints?
It's early doors with the Zero Carbon Forum. So we signed up in December. It sort of launched in January, and the first groups of meetings are going to happen in March. So they're doing the baseline analysis at the moment on our footprint for a baseline year of 2018, and so I'll have to answer that question another day, really, in terms of how that's going. But it's so far so good. There's lots of great information for us, lots of access to lots of consultancy that other people have paid for, and sharing of all of that. But yeah, I think maybe there should be some sort of all Wales group, at least sharing ideas, because we'd be happy to share. Because there's no point in us being sustainable and somebody else not being. If we're going to fix, there's an emergency, and we all need to work together, really. Otherwise, we're not going to get anywhere. So yeah, I perhaps we can pick that conversation up again.
Thanks, Martin. We'd be more than happy to support that sharing of knowledge, support the sharing of ideas, and part of the role of Cake is to do that, is to support regional collaboration. And then between regions support that, and we have made contact, and we are in discussions with North Wales Ambition Board, amongst others, to ensure that we share this learning across North Wales as well. So I'm conscious of time. Thank you very much, Martin.